Do you panic when you see that blank page? Are you struggling to find the right words to express your ideas? Do you find yourself easily distracted when you sit down to write, especially if you have ADHD like me? And do you feel overwhelmed by the inner and outer pressure to write the perfect scene? If your answer is yes to any of these, you're not alone. All writers and artists experience this artistic block or writer's block for writers. It's a common and frustrating experience, but the good news is that it's something you can overcome easily, and I'm going to tell you exactly how. And we're not going to share the same old tips. We will go over some amazing tricks that actually worked wonders for me, and I've never seen anyone else share these, so stay tuned. Hello, and welcome to this episode of a Screenwriter's Secret Diary podcast, where we talk about everything Hollywood, screenwriting, filmmaking, and also just about being an artist in general. The struggles of pitching yourself, pitching your idea, pitching your art, trusting in yourself, believing in yourself, the state of the industry, overcoming blocks like in this episode, and everything else in between. My name is Seda, and I've been a screenwriter in Los Angeles for 6 years now. I've been a writer my whole life, but I got sidetracked and studied chemical and biological engineering instead before doing my master's in screenwriting. So far, I've written maybe 15 feature films, maybe more, and around 10 or 12 shows at this point, which are all in different stages of development and pre-production. I've been pitching all of these to different managers, producers, agents, and filmmakers that I network with. I directed a web series that got over 200,000 viewers on YouTube and sold an audio drama show. If you're on YouTube, you can see the poster right behind me. So today I wanted to particularly address this fear of starting to write your story, your idea, your article, blog, or create your art in general. This is not just for writers, but for everyone, even though I'll specifically address writers because I'm a writer. But just so you know, that initial fear of starting, the writer's block when you stare at a blank page, or the thought of a blank page, maybe that thought makes you wanna avoid sitting down on your computer and start writing those pages, which happens to me a lot. We all experience this, but particularly why I might be the one to finally help you is I had so many co-writers throughout the years. Right now I have one on a TV project and another on an audio drama show, but they've always appreciated how good I was at starting and getting the wheel turning for both of us. They've always told me that it was easy to start writing with me because I always take some extra steps to break my own writer's block. And apparently, it was really helpful for them too. I didn't even think of these things that I do as tactics until my co-writers started to point this out. So then I thought to myself, why not share these tactics with other artists and writers? And if any of you try these out and it works, please let me know in the comments. Like this video, make sure to subscribe as I have more videos like these and episodes like these on my podcast, and maybe share it with those who you think will benefit from this video, just so we can keep helping each other and thrive as artists in this crazy, scary world that's run by money and not very much by artistic creativity. Anywho, before I get too spiritual, let's take a look at these 5 tips and tricks you can do to break that initial fear of a blank page. 1. Don't stare at a blank page. Sada, what do you mean? I have to look at a blank page before starting to type, Well, not necessarily. One thing I do is I always make sure that my page is not blank. So my first pages are never blank. I'm always working on a page filled with sometimes outline, sometimes character descriptions, sometimes words or adjectives to get me going, sometimes like inspiring fantastical land words or titles, or words in general that describe my genre, or even photos and pictures like a little pitch deck to help me get started on the page. But whatever it is, I never have an empty page in front of me. I don't know about you, but that's just too stressful for me. I have a panic attack. I freeze and I just can't type anything if I'm staring at a blank page. And that's usually when it comes to like, I have to write something. I have to do this. I have to write this. But when an idea hits, you usually start typing on a blank page like no other. You're flowing and everything. But then you have to come back and actually write it better, right? So that's what I'm talking about. When you have to write, you should make sure that you're never starting with a blank page if you have a panic attack like me. So even if I have no idea what I'm going to write, well, I should still have some idea, right? I might use some adjectives to describe my characters, or I might even write down things I want to talk about. Maybe the theme or the message of the story, maybe some dialogues that are coming to me. I just quickly type them and I make sure that those things are big and they cover the blank page enough so I don't panic. It doesn't even have to be in full sentences. Whatever is on the page, it can just be bullet points, scattered words, photos, whatever it is, just type them down, put them there. Once you're staring at a page filled with things to work on rather than an empty page, it'll be much easier for you to start your work. 2, set a timer. I'm not talking about setting a focus block timer to just focus on one task at a time, even though it is very helpful. I do that as an ADHDer, I do have to kind of make sure I focus on what I have to focus on rather than 20 things at the same time. But this one is for times when we face extreme procrastination. This is the perfect tool to beat that fear of starting once and for all. Okay, so here's what I do. I literally set a 5 to 10 minute timer and I tell myself I have to finish this scene or this page in 5 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever you want to do. Or if negative reinforcements work on you, like me, you can motivate yourself by saying, I bet you can't finish this page in 10 minutes. And see how suddenly you're typing those words in. It's like words are magically coming out of you. It doesn't even matter how bad the writing is. You're just trying to get it done in 10 minutes. What this does is it stops you from overthinking too much. You're not obsessed with making it perfect. When I set the timer, I stop overthinking my words, my story, or my writing. And the biggest thing that makes this work is remember to set that timer quickly before you start overthinking that timer. If I realize that I'm procrastinating and can't sit down to write, I just quickly set that timer and tell myself, I bet you can't write this scene in 5 minutes. Then I'm just quickly there writing and trying to type. It's not even about writing that scene in 5 minutes. It's about getting started. Once that 5-minute timer is out, I quickly stop it and I actually continue working because now I'm in the zone. Now I forced myself to be in the zone. Sometimes I'm not even on my desk. I'm in the kitchen or restroom, just scrolling on TikTok, in bed, or whatever it is. And the moment I realize I have to write, I'm not writing. What am I doing? I quickly put that timer, rush to my desk, turn on my computer, open that document and just type. So don't even think about preparing your setup or I should turn on my laptop before I set that timer. Don't think about any of that. Or you'll basically avoid setting the timer because then the act of setting that timer will stress you out and then you'll start overthinking and you won't set that timer, unfortunately. That's what I realized. So when you notice you should be writing instead of scrolling or something else, just quickly set that timer and run. It gives you that urgency, like I have to get somewhere quickly. I have so little time and I have to run. This method actually started to become a big deal for me when I realized that I tend to finish a project or even start working on a project or on a script when the deadline is close. Then suddenly there is no creative block. There is no writer's block. I'm just flowing because I'm scared. Like there's this urgency. I have to get this done. So I basically created a simulation version of a deadline for myself, if that makes sense. Even this morning, I realized I was a bit slow about starting to record this podcast. I scrolled for an hour and then I went through the bullet points that I have to talk about and then I scrolled a little bit more, but I had to get ready to start recording this podcast. So something hit me and I quickly set a 15-minute timer. And I told myself, well, you gotta get ready before this timer ends. So again, remember to not think too much. Just set the timer and run. Because if I thought too much about setting that 15-minute timer to get ready, I wouldn't have been here at the moment. And also another point, just for funsies, I'm in my workout clothes right now, so I have no excuse to not work out. I can just record this episode and go to the gym. So the extra tip, I guess, is to think ahead and plan. Make things easier for yourself to get things done, to do that thing. So it doesn't become a whole thing. It doesn't become this chore that you hate, That's what really causes you to procrastinate. 3, celebrate your accomplishments. Celebrate that small achievement you made on the page. Sometimes it's a bad day and you just finished typing this one sentence, but it took a lot out of you. So it's okay. Just celebrate that sentence. Celebrate naming the character. Take that little step to be proud of yourself. I swear that this small shift changed everything for me. Suddenly, I wasn't so hard on myself, and writing on a blank page or starting to write something, starting to create something, it wasn't that hard anymore because I was celebrating that act, right? One of my co-writers and I, we do this all the time. After each scene or each exhausting beat that we wrote on the script, we stop and celebrate. And celebrating doesn't mean we have a full-on party. We just stop and say to each other, good job. We did good work with this scene. Wow, we finished that beat. Good stuff. And at the end of each day, we also say, good stuff. We did good today. Wow, see you next time. I'm so excited. It's almost like positive reinforcement, right? It makes you feel accomplished instead of being so hard on yourself. Oh, I just wrote the scene. I couldn't hit that page number I wanted to hit. Oh, like I'm a failure. I couldn't finish this. That's how I am usually. But I'm working on this, and these tips and tricks are actually what really worked for me. Because I totally understand being hard on yourself and being like, oh my God, I was gonna finish Act 1 in a week. I couldn't do it. It's been 7 days. What the heck am I doing? Right? But it's okay. It's okay. It really is. Even if you have a deadline, yes, write faster, of course, but stop for just 10 seconds and note down your achievement in that moment. Like note down in your head. If you want to note it down in a journal, that's also fine, Write down those affirmations like, oh, I did good. I wrote a scene. I cannot believe I finished that insane scene. I'm an amazing writer. Write that. It really helps. Be like, wow, I'm on page 30. Wow, I'm on page 3. Like whatever it is. I can't believe I finished Act 2. Be this grateful, this proud of yourself for doing these small things, for doing the work. It's gonna change your perspective. It's gonna change a lot, believe me. 4, go to a coffee shop. If you have the means, this is a great way to quickly shift or change your environment and get rid of any distractions you might have. And this doesn't necessarily mean like your roommates. If you're living alone in a house, in an apartment, it might be too comfortable sometimes, right? It's a place where you chill. It's a place where you sleep, cook, like watch something. So maybe it's too comfortable and not very fitting for a work environment. You might be too used to it. You might need that shift, which I realized very recently that I write better when I'm outside, and I even got myself a keyboard for my little iPad so I don't have to carry my entire setup, This is almost like method number 2, how we create a sense of urgency, right? Set a timer and go, go, go. Here, in number 4, getting out of your comfort zone by going to a coffee shop or a park, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be a coffee shop, but sitting alone with your laptop, it will force you to just focus on that one thing you have to write. Like there's no escape anymore. You are alone. There's no one to talk around you. You just have to do this one thing. This really has become my favorite method to do in the last 2 weeks now. But I have to say, if one coffee shop doesn't work for you, if it's too crowded, let's say, try a different one. I now have one favorite coffee shop. I know the silent hours now, and I usually go during that time. I hate the rush hours really because I can't focus because, ADHD and everything, I'm listening to people and then I'm coming up with ideas based on people's conversations. It's a whole thing. But despite the hour, inside is always, for example, loud for me in this coffee shop, and outside is always quiet and nice. So knowing that, I also bring my jacket or dress accordingly for the weather because I know that I'm gonna sit outside in the sun or in the rain or whatever it is. So keep these things in mind. This fourth method might not work right away, but just keep trying to find that perfect place for your art. And the last tip is 5, outline. Or if you're an artist, not a writer, then this would be plan or develop your idea further. This is so important. As I said in tip number 1, staring at a blank page without the outline or without anything typed, it's the worst thing. I swear to God. And sure, you can just type in some words or character names or teams and put some photos or whatever to fill that page. But I personally would rather copy paste my outline onto that blank page. Then I basically outline the scenes in a more detailed way. I sit down and write everything like that comes to my mind about this outline. Maybe I have some dialogue ideas. Maybe I have some idea about how things will really happen. Maybe I have some planned and payoff ideas. So I will write all of those down and I will expand all the beats into a more developed outline. And later, when I look at that page, I'm not too worried about what will happen next. I know where the story is going. I know exactly what's going to happen. I have a plan. I know what I will write that day, and I know what I will write tomorrow. This outlining thing is that safety net that makes us not panic or feel overwhelmed too much about starting to write. And if you're curious about how I outline, please let me know in the comments. And I will share a step-by-step of how I do it because it's totally different than any other person. While I was doing my master's degree in screenwriting, I learned so many different methods and I basically mashed some of it down and made a very simple method, and I would love to share it with you guys. So please let me know. Please show your appreciation because that's what keeps me going. So these 5 tips are my favorite methods to overcome that writer's block and that panic when you stare at a blank page. And you can get to work easily because we all deserve that chance to be able to tell our stories. Honestly, when I make that distinction between an artist and a writer, I really don't believe that because artists are writers too. We're all storytellers and we tell our stories, even if it's a big sci-fi or a big fantasy world that doesn't make sense, it's not realistic or whatever. It's still our stories and it's something that's coming out of us. And we have to be able to express ourselves rather than having a panic over a blank page. So if the only thing stopping you is you, then that's great because there are things you can do to adjust some things and finally start doing what you want to do. I hope this was helpful. Please let me know if any of these work, if any of these resonate with you. Thank you for watching if you're on YouTube. Thank you for listening if you found me on a podcast app. Make sure to follow, like, subscribe, comment, rate this podcast 5 stars. Do all the things you can to pay it forward and help other artists thrive, because once you support other artists, believe me, I realized it's such a good karma for you. It really improves your well-being, spiritual well-being, and overall well-being, really. Thank you so much. And the next episode is gonna be called Mega Flops of Hollywood 2024 and Why Producers Have to Change. I'm really excited for this episode, so make sure to follow, turn on that notification bell so you don't miss that episode. Thank you and see you next time.